Hi guys, welcome to another At Home with Mr. Darenster. And what we're going to do at this point is, well, we've got some particular ideas as to what I'm going to look at, but we've also got something rather interesting to be sharing with you. And what we're going to be going on a limb to say is you'd be very interested as to where I'm going. So we just wait for some other people to join, and let's just see where we go from there. I'm going to close off Teams as well, because that suddenly popped up, and we just see where it goes from there. And it would be that in its retrospect. And I'm just going to wait. So what would we be hoping to get in this? Well, just surely I can't be on my own, not this time. Sent out all the invites, and oh, here we go. We have someone joining. So I'm going to put them in. I'm going to invite them. And there we go. We have the sisters. Hi, sisters.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm all the better for being able to invite Sister Kay to what would be her last ever guest appearance in At Home with Mr. Darenster.
I feel so happy that I'm being able to be a part of it.
You've been part of it since from the very beginning, which, yeah, it's only been 3 episodes so far, but still it's been an honour to have you on.
Oh, thank you. It's been a very good privilege as well.
But we're hoping to have some more people join us, because I've got something very exciting to teach you.
Yay!
Ooh. Is it like that song? That song was incredible.
Oh, that was so cool.
You mean Yakko's World?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was so good.
Yeah, it took even the bishop by surprise by the time I got to the 3rd verse.
Yeah, she loved it. It was so good.
Although I am looking at doing something else in that in the next talent show. So,
okay.
Which stake would you be moving to, Sister Kay?
I don't know which stake. I'm going to Clapham.
So that would be somewhere, that's in London.
Yeah.
Because Bill mentioned that was where he was born.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Now, I don't know whether or not any of you use Windows.
On the computer?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So at the moment, I'm using my desktop. I'm using Windows 10.
Okay.
Which is primarily, as it were, my primary operating system. Good to see you, Wendy.
Hi, lovely. I'm having a nightmare with my laptop, so I've dialed in from my phone while the laptop is completing its spinning wheel of death.
Oh, you've got a MacBook. Oh, no. MacBooks.
No, I haven't.
Death. I should know, having known one for 6 years myself.
Yeah, no, it's not a MacBook. I've got an Asus.
So it'll be Windows 10. Yeah. But speaking of that, I have got something very exciting coming up. Now, Wendy, you already know the gist of what I'm going to be teaching. But still you're going to be very excited. And you're going to particularly like what I've done with my PowerPoint presentation as well.
You've done a
I love PowerPoint.
I've done a PowerPoint.
I'm excited.
But that's what I'm talking about. Wendy's probably thinking to herself, "There's my talented cousin for you."
I bet. I wish I had a talented cousin like you, Darren.
Thank you, Sister Ray. Oh, did you tell Wendy what happened during what had happened with that talent show that we did?
Darren sang the coolest song.
Yeah.
It was so good. It sang like every country in the world.
It's crazy.
So good.
Oh, it's good to see you, Uncle Ken.
Yeah, and you, Darren. Sorry we were a bit late.
Better late than
Hello.
never. Good to see you, Aunt Jenny. It's better late than never.
We,
Oh, I'm really sorry.
we've been out drinking with the neighbours. I do apologise.
Unsurprisingly. But
Yeah, it's unusual, isn't it?
It's always a good way to play tomato sauce and
Yeah, Auntie Karina was with us, so I don't know if she'll join because she's just on her way home.
but if she doesn't, if she's late joining it, she's better late than never. I'll also invite my dad
indeed.
as well. So I said to him, don't swear.
No, definitely.
Oh my goodness, Darren, you think he's going to listen to that?
He said he would. If he doesn't, I will mute him.
I think you should. Yes, we will
So
have
who else is
word.
on- Who else is on this?
Yeah.
Who am I seeing?
So you are seeing
look at
Sister,
it. Yeah.
lovely Sisters Jensen.
Yeah, I can see the sisters.
Hello.
But Sister Kay is being transferred to another ward. So
Yeah.
this will be the last time we see her.
Oh, well, good luck.
Yeah, have a good
Thank
time
you.
wherever they send you.
But you will
Thank
get to
you.
see the next sister in the next episode.
Yeah.
Oh,
She'll probably be very excited to meet you and to come on.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you both. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to see Darren's friends.
And they're
Yeah,
two of my brilliant friends.
Good, good.
Be sure to keep in touch when you go back home.
Well,
Yes,
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
So how long have we missed? How late are we?
4 minutes.
Oh, well, there
Oh, that's
you go.
not bad
then.
for
That's
us,
not
is it?
bad, is it?
So it's just nice. It's just nice that you could join us.
Yeah, sorry
I've
we were
got
just a
something
bit
fun and
late.
exciting to in the form of a lesson, but you'll be impressed, Aunt Jenny, in particular, because I did a PowerPoint presentation.
You did a what, sorry?
Oh,
I did a
wow.
PowerPoint
Oh,
presentation.
did you? Well done.
So
What did you do it on? What was it for?
we're about to learn, Mum. It's for this call.
Oh,
We're going to be educated by Darren. He's going to be a good teacher, aren't you?
Thanks. So you get to so you get to see it in action. So I'm going to give everyone another 5 minutes, and then I'll get started with that.
Okay.
Okay.
The only thing, Darren, I need to leave here at 5 to 7 because my Zoom is being used for Sheldon's people at
Yeah,
7.
that's fine.
that
Yeah,
all
we'll be done by then.
It's lovely to talk to you anyway. Well, we talk nearly every day, don't we?
We do, which is lovely.
It is. It's my favourite time of day.
And mine.
Yeah, we talk about lots of good things, don't we?
We do, and it's just incredible that when the two cousins get together, it's just incredible what would come out.
Yeah, oh yes.
And I told, I told Wendy, there was a reference to a musical artist, but we'll get to that later because that's a part of my lesson.
How is James, Darren? Is
He's
he
doing
good?
well, so he might join us, but then he might not because I've caught him at a time where he's potentially having his dinner.
Yeah, it's a difficult time, isn't it? Some people have their dinner about 6, but some people wait a bit later. It's never easy to get everyone together.
No.
Now,
So, I sent my dad another invite, so I'm just hoping.
you know how he is with technology, Darren. He hates Zoom.
Yeah,
He may not, you know.
I gathered.
So,
Who's the other Wendy Riley?
me. I've now let me in. I'm going to come out of my phone and dial in from my laptop. Okay.
Okay, I've
So
joined you. I've
you
let
join me. Okay. Right.
So we've lost Wendy for now,
Okay.
but she's joining in from her. Right, she's joining in from her laptop.
So
I think I'm
Darren,
still.
Darren, what do you think about it might not be lockdown soon?
Ah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I.
Means I get to go out and about.
It does, love.
But I probably wouldn't do it without my mask.
No. No, I'll see if I can get you. I'll see if I can get you a couple from work when I go. I'm going back to work on Wednesday,
That'd be
and I'll
nice.
see if I can get you some.
That'd be brilliant. Oh,
Yeah,
we've got Wendy back online.
Yeah, I'm just fiddling around with my special speaker.
Now, I
Oh, I
can't
can see a
really
pair of eyes.
see my lovely cousin now. I can only see the top of her head.
Yes.
Can you see me now?
Now, I can see your eyes and your forehead, but not the rest of your face.
Okay. Let
Not
me
the
just.
forehead.
You're supposed to tilt the screen forward so I can see all of you.
I can't see anything at the moment because I've got a spinning wheel and a white screen and
Oh, that's telling
nothing
me that
else.
it's not responding.
Yeah, it's not.
We can see you though, Wendy.
It's all right. It should open in a minute. It's been a nightmare, this laptop.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my screen sharing. And this is what we're going to look at when it all comes up. Can you see that?
I can see it says Darren Stratton has started screen sharing.
But you'll get to see my screen in a bit.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
No.
No.
Okay. Wendy's gone, so I have to bring her back. And
Oh, what happened there then? Oh, I've got At Home with Mr. Darenster.
okay, so what we've got is what I'm going to be teaching you, or what I'm going to be going through, what I'm going to be talking about, is what happens if you don't activate Windows.
Okay.
And I'll be going through the different types of penalties or the restrictions that you get if you don't activate Windows. But what are the particular penalties, you might be thinking? Well,
don't know.
That will depend on which operating system you're using. So I'll be going over the 5. So obviously we'll be starting. So obviously we'll be starting on Windows 10.
That's everybody. I'm coming
Oh,
back.
sorry about that.
Coming back.
I says.
Right, we'll try that again. Right, we'll try that again. Bear me one moment, guys. Because
I'm glad I'm not the only one who's got problems with technology.
yeah,
Karina can't. Her audio
the
is not
thumbnails
working.
are minimised to optimise, so it's now minimised. So what happens if you don't activate Windows 10? What happens if you don't activate Windows. But that would depend on which system you're using. So we'll be covering 5 of them. So obviously we'll be starting with Windows 10 because that's the most recent system. Right, bear me one moment. I'm just going to go back to the full screen again. Just going to go back to the chat.
All right, we're still here.
Yeah. I'm just.
Just take the scale back.
I'm just going to have it so that I can have the video call, so I can have the video thumbnail at the same time. So you get
Okay.
what's going on. Third time lucky. Can you see my screen?
No.
I think, Darren, Zoom is having difficulty coping with the screen share and all of us on video. I think it doesn't like it. It's too much.
Right, I'll give it one more go and then we'll see what happens.
Oh, I can hear you now.
All right, can you see my
Oh,
screen?
hello.
Hello,
No.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, Darren, it's still not working. We can see one screen. Try again. It seems to work.
Yeah, if it seems to work, that's good enough.
We can only see one thing. Try.
I'm here.
Wonder where you were.
What?
Who?
Gail.
Because it's animated, so that would have come in. So we're going to be looking at Windows 10, obviously, because that's the most recent one. But then we'll go over Windows 8. And for historical purposes, Windows 7, because that went away in January. Windows Vista, although that had 2 different sets of penalties, and we'll go over both when we get there. And Windows XP. So what would happen if we didn't activate Windows 10? Well, really not a lot, not much. But the most obvious the most obvious thing it would do is it would show up on the bottom right-hand corner that you hadn't activated Windows, and it would also show up at the bottom of your settings dialog, telling you that it isn't activated, and it would prompt you to do that. But really, the only limitation that you would have had that was imposed on you is that you couldn't really customize it or personalize it in any way. So you couldn't change the colors, the lock screen, the themes. You couldn't really do anything like that. But apart from that, depending on the type of person you probably wouldn't notice anything. Although I would not recommend that you pirate Windows 10. We would always pay what we get, for what we get. Otherwise, if we just stole everything, the economy would suffer. However, in later versions of Windows 10, we have the use of a digital license. So if you would get a digital license if you upgraded from the previous version of Windows, a genuine version of Windows, so Windows 7, or you bought it from a store, from the Microsoft store.
Take it to a cooler chair.
Or you went and became a Windows insider like me. But other than that, there isn't really anything that would stop you from using Windows 10 unactivated. So we're moving on. Before I do that, what do you think about my little transitions I'm doing between the slides?
Very good.
Okay, so what would happen if you don't activate Windows 8? Well, practically it works in the same way as it did with Windows 10, as it didn't have a grace period, neither of them do, and it would behave in sort of the same way, but it is a bit more annoying than in Windows 10. So first off, it would show the build number in the bottom right-hand corner, and it would show up in the bottom right-hand corner as well a watermark telling you to activate Windows, and it would also show up in your action center as well before it then moved over into a bit of its own in Windows 10. And it's also the same deal. If you go into your PC settings, you would have a different, you'd have a new section that tells you to activate, and it'll prompt you to do that there. And it's also the same with personalization. You can't do anything with the lock screen, the start screen, your count icons. You can't do anything with that. But the main difference with Windows 8 is, and it could be a bit more annoying, is that every 6 hours or so, you'd get this. It's an activation prompt, and it would overlay over absolutely anything that you were doing, which can be very annoying and frustrating. It depends on what you're doing. So, for example, if you were on a conference call, Wendy, if you were on a conference call,
Yeah.
and you were doing a screen share like what I'm doing now, and your activation prompt popped up, you probably would sit through the rest of the meeting embarrassed.
Yeah, I'd be, yeah. It wouldn't look good, Darren.
No. Or another example is if you were playing a video game and you're about to clutch around, it pops up and you die.
Oh.
So you would get a death by Windows 8, and essentially that'd be very frustrating. And another example of where it could pop up at the most inconvenient times, if you're watching a film and you're about to get to a good part, and then the activation prompt pops up and you miss it, so you'd have to rewind back to that bit, and that could get annoying as well. Yeah, but other than that, there isn't really much that would stop you from using Windows 8. Oh, and another thing as well. Also, when it comes to restarting the computer, it could pop up even then. So it tends to pop up at the worst possible time. Anyway, moving on. Then the penalties were the same in Windows 8.1. It behaved in exactly the same way as it did its predecessor. But moving on, and we now have Windows 7. Now, Windows 7 was the last version of Windows that had a grace period, and was split into 3 different segments of the period. And it would get to the point where it could potentially impair your usage of Windows, but we will get to that very shortly. What would happen though if you don't activate Windows 7? Well, for the first 3 days of the grace period, nothing much will happen. You'll just get a little icon like that appear in your taskbar, in your system tray, telling you to activate Windows, but you wouldn't really notice. After that, you will then get a little pop-up message from the taskbar. I made that one myself, so I just replicated what I saw. But how often you would get that will depend on how far in the grace period you are. So for days 4 to 27, it would come up daily. It would come up on a daily basis. So you get it once a day. But when you go to the tail end of the grace period, so the last 3 days or so, it will start to pop up every 4 hours from the taskbar. So it's really trying to remind you. So it'll be 6 times a day you get that. But again, there'll be nothing really impairing. However, after the 30 days, that's when Microsoft...
There's Lucy.
That's when Microsoft really start to come down on you like a ton of bricks. So first off, you are going to every single hour get the same activation prompt as you did before. So that can get annoying if it's popping up at that rate. And also it'll turn up on the bottom that your copy of Windows is no longer valid. And every time you go to open the control panel, there will be a message there saying that you haven't activated Windows, and it will prompt you to do that from there as well. But there are bigger penalties than that. First off, you can change your desktop background, but it will do an Amy Winehouse on you every single hour and go back to black. Pun intended.
I know that, Pan. We've discussed that, Pan, haven't we?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. What did you think about that one, sisters?
Good one.
So it would go, it would revert back to black every single hour. So you'll be eventually thinking to yourself, well, what's the point in even bothering? But the biggest penalty in this case is that you wouldn't be able to install any system updates. But it would include the critical ones and the security. But anything other than that, you won't be able to get, and that could potentially impact on your usage of Windows. And it would be worth it if we'd upgraded. And also Microsoft Security Essentials, the antivirus software that came bundled with Windows 7, that would stop working as well. So you'd leave yourself totally exposed if you hadn't activated Windows. But other than that, there isn't really much that would stop you from using Windows 7 past the grace period.
Where did Karina go?
I don't know.
What was that, Aunt Jenny?
I said, where did Auntie Karina go? I'm here. Oh, where? Here.
Oh, Mum, it's because you can't see all the screens, but she's here. I can.
Oh, I thought you got lost. Oh, hello. Hey, Darren, carry on.
Okay, so what do you think of it so far?
Very good.
Right.
I don't understand all of it because I don't understand computers, but yes, very good.
So what would then happen, moving on to Windows Vista, which is ancient history, it's so 2006. But it's interesting to talk about because Windows Vista was pretty hardcore when it came to the penalties. Pretty hardcore. And there were two different sets of penalties. So if you wondered why I had something underneath it, when Microsoft released Windows Vista, the original, the RTM released to manufacture, it had one set of penalties. And then when Service Pack 1 released, they changed them. So we'll go over both. But with the original version of Windows Vista, you had a 30-day grace period where you could use it freely. All it would do then, it would give you a prompt every now and then to remind you to activate. But after the grace period, you would go into what's called an out of grace RFM. It's a reduced functionality mode, which had some very hardcore penalties. So every time you logged into Windows, you would see a message at the bottom right hand telling you it's not genuine. Because if you go into out of grace RFM, you get your non-genuine one as well. That'll kick in at the same time. So when you log into Windows, you will get a prompt telling you to activate Windows, or you could access your computer in an RFM. But if you do that, the penalties are that it would not let you play any built-in games. So if you wanted to play Solitaire or Minesweeper in a reduced function, and you had in your RFM, you can forget about it because it won't let you. Also, there were no premium features either. So another thing that wasn't allowed was the error glass theme. So that was introduced into Vista and was polished for later versions of Windows. And it was more modernized. Also, you can get access to Ready Boost, which when you put it onto a memory stick, it would act as extra RAM. But without access to Ready Boost, you stick with what you've got already and it could potentially slow you down. And also you've lost access to BitLocker as well. You couldn't get access to that either. And BitLocker would allow you to encrypt your drive to protect your files. So if you lost access to that, you've locked yourself out of any encrypted drives that you might have had. But while you were out of Grace, RFN, you had, the short gist of it, you had no start menu, you had no desktop icons either.
Hey? Or not?
All right, Bits.
You can sit down on the chair.
You're
if
right,
you
Aunt
want.
Jenny.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the arm of the chair, Darren, and my bum's gone to sleep.
That's fair enough. All you get is a black background and limited access to Internet Explorer to activate a license or to buy a new license of Vista. However, I haven't even gotten to the biggest. I haven't even got to the biggest penalty yet. So be prepared, everyone, particularly the sisters. If you didn't activate Windows, the biggest penalty was that you could not stay logged into Vista for more than an hour. So if you didn't activate Windows Vista in that time, it would just log you out. And you couldn't use the computer in any meaningful way. However, we're going into Service Pack 1, and with the release of Service Pack 1, Microsoft did chill out a bit with the penalties. So you still had the 30-day grace period, to which then afterwards you still get your message saying that your copy was no longer valid, but you could now use Windows Vista past the initial 30-day grace period. It would no longer log you out every single hour like it did before, but it removed the ability to personalize your computer. In fact, the only thing it would let you change was your desktop background. But even then, it would behave in the same way as Windows 7 did, and it would revert back to black every single hour, as well as giving you a prompt to activate Windows in that very same way. But in an even more annoying way, the way it behaves differently than it did with Windows 7 is when you log in, you will get your usual activation prompt, but when you click activate later where you can't, not for 15 seconds, that activate later button is disabled and it will not be enabled for 15 seconds. So it's really sort of wanting you to activate. And also, if I put you down here, you could not get access to Dream Scene, which was introduced to Windows Vista, but that was all it was available for. And it displayed a moving background. So it was like a live background, if you will. So if you didn't activate Windows Vista, you weren't getting Dream Scene. It wouldn't work. And also in the same way as Windows 7, you couldn't get access to any updates apart from your critical ones. So it would have been that. And your security updates. And with Security Essentials, it would stop working as well. So you could really potentially expose yourself. But apart from all of this, there's now not really much that will now stop you using Vista after the grace period, unlike what it did before. Now, last but not least, we have Windows XP. Now, sisters, Now, I know I shouldn't ask a sister of their age because I know it's rude, but Windows Vista was released in 2001. So if you're 18 at this stage, this would be before your time.
Not before, it's about at our time.
Yep.
So 2001. But Windows XP was the first version that required activating. And like everything else, you had a 30-day grace period where pretty much nothing happened. The only thing that would happen is you'd get a prompt at the bottom of your taskbar telling you to activate.
Is that your stomach, Darren?
What's that?
I can hear grumbling. Is that your stomach?
No. What happened was you get a prompt from your taskbar reminding you to activate. And that's what you get when you open it up. It's a bit blurry. But if you did click on it, you'd have the opportunity to activate over the internet, or you can do it by phone, which is what I've got there as well. I'm going to move you across so you get to see that. And that's the type of route I tend to follow when I'm activating Windows XP. If, however, you choose not to activate Windows XP, you would get the pop-up that would pop up every 3 to 4 days. But this is the point where Microsoft was at its strictest. So if you, after the 30-day grace period, if you hadn't activated Windows XP, it would just stop working and you couldn't use it at all. So you'd have to activate it, otherwise you couldn't use it. It was either you activate or you're screwed. That's how strict Microsoft was at the time.
Wow.
And that's it, guys. I'm going to be bringing you back.
Yay!
Well done, Darren.
Well done. Great presentation.
Fabulous.
But it's just interesting how it all worked out.
Yeah, it is. Very good. You spent a lot of time, Darren, doing that.
It took a lot of research as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
I was just looking on the internet before I put the presentation together. I was looking on the internet because I read about there was a report that Microsoft was potentially we're going to chill out with the penalties when it came to Windows XP Service Pack 3. Now, what I've got here is a genuine version of Windows XP Service Pack 3. So I gave it a try. And I set the time and date to somewhere in May 2001, because that was around the time Windows XP was released. And then I set it forward a month just to see what would happen. And it was the same deal. I couldn't get into it at all. I had to activate it. So that was my lesson learned, is don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Oh, no. This is good advice.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could get some consequences. I mean, in my case, trying to Windows XP Service Pack 3, tried to use that past the 30-day grace period. Yeah, it wasn't working. Wasn't going.
No. Yeah, sometimes it's the internet can be a dodgy thing.
That's what I learned there as well.
Well, Darren, I'm going to have to go in a minute because I want to. Evie's FaceTime me as well, which I've missed twice.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to call it here for this episode.
Because
You did
and then
very well, Darren. Big well
you did.
done.
You did. It was
Well
very
done.
good.
Join us in the next episode, which is coming very soon. But until then, bye-bye. And good luck.
Well done, Darren.
Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, girls. Good luck.